Excuse me, my pacha can't remember everything. So, Honorable Chief Guest for today's function, Shrimati Mridula Thakurji. Honorable Guest Speaker, Shrimati Kalpana Mahapatraji. Respected Director, Dr. Shashniji. Special invitee, Dr. Mrs. Shashniji. Scientists, members of technical and administrative staff, students, researchers, ladies and gentlemen. आप सभी को आज अंतर्राष्ट्रीय महिला दिवस पे मेरे प्यार भरी नमस्कार और आप सबका इस समारोह में बहुत बहुत स्वागत। I welcome you all on behalf of NIPB Women's Committee to this celebration of International Women's Day. I'll just say a few lines about the origin of International Women's Day. Every year on 8th March, International Women's Day is celebrated around the world for commemorating cultural and socio-economic achievements of women. This day epitomizes the need for creating awareness in the society about eliminating gender discrimination and promoting gender equality and women empowerment. International Women's Day took its origin in the labor movements in North America and Europe during the early 20th century. At that time, women workers were ill-paid, their working conditions were very harsh, and they had no legal or voting rights at that time. And we know when we oppress people too much, it leads to a revolution, silent at first, and then building on. So after several sustained protests, which then became a powerful liberation movement, reforms in wages and voting and other legal rights such as inheritance for women were achieved. Subsequent women's liberation movements, more popularly known as the feminist movements, the first happened in 1960s and then in 1990s and then in the millennium, they have focused on equal rights and opportunities and greater participation of women in the mainstream society. This day has been a landmark event for addressing women-centric issues and challenges faced by women. Since 1975, which incidentally was the International Year for Women, this day has also been celebrated by United Nations and ever since. The UN observes this day each year, highlighting a particular theme, espousing women's rights such as gender equality, reproductive rights, protection from violence and abuse, and hardships endured by women displaced in war. We know that unfortunately women become the victims, there are more of victims in a war situation, and as we have seen in Afghanistan and Syria in the recent times. Last year's UN theme for International Women's Day was Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World, highlighting the commendable role that women worldwide have played as a significant pillar of our healthcare and education system. We know that most of the workforce in these two sectors tends to be women. This year's UN theme for International Women's Day is Gender Equality Today for Sustainable Tomorrow. And this is again to highlight the social changes which are required for attaining a sustainable future. Although I would say the long road to gender equality has been much traveled, much still remains to be done. 52% of the world population are women. Yet, their representation in various fields, even though substantially improved over time, is still significantly skewed. To bridge this gap, gender expectations need to be redefined. We have been going on with the gender expectations, what all a woman needs to do and what all a man needs to do. This needs a redefinition. A recalibration of the way we raise our next generation, our boys and girls, is required. Both women and men are equally capable in their own ways, and they bear the shared responsibility of creating a sustainable tomorrow. Women, especially the rural and the tribal women, they have made immense contribution, and it mostly has been a silent kind of contribution which hasn't been highlighted that much in facing the challenges of adaptation to climate change. Women had been the strength behind late Sundarlal Bahugunaji's successful Chipko movement to save our precious forests and biodiversity from poachers. So what is required today? Today we have to work together in a participatory mode, and I'm extremely happy to see that all our staff, madam, I would like to say, is present here. Men and women, together we are celebrating this day. And so we have to act in a participatory mode as men, as our allies, our friends to help us, to provide the momentum for greater gender equality in all spheres of life and for a better society where there is no gender bias. And it must be understood that if women make progress, the society makes progress. Incidentally, the hashtag for this year's Women's Day is break the bias. So we have to all collectively work to break that bias. Madams, we at NIPB are celebrating this day also as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And once again, on behalf of NIPB, I extend you all a very warm welcome to this program, and we look forward to hearing from our honorable chief guest and guest speaker, and as well as our beloved director. And also on this day, we are happy to announce inauguration of a wellness room in NIPB. It's primarily a brainchild of our director and former chairperson of NIPB Women's Committee, Dr. Anita Groverji, and ably brought into form by all my colleagues in the current Women's Committee. Thank you all.